Okay, so here's my new Reason setup. Lowered the resolution to 720p so I can make a video. I'm not used to having such little screen real estate, but I think I'll manage. So here's my mixer basically I've set up for my template, and you'll see you've got Kong 1 and 2 through 16. So 8 stereo tracks, because the Kong has that ability that I can send different drums to different SSL channels if I wish, or the way it is default, everything's running out of 1 and 2, but these are already set up, ready to go. And then you'll see my bus for drums, my side chain, and music. Now, the problem in the past I've always had is there's no actual bus tracks for Reason, and the one method I've seen involves basically using an audio channel that speaks to an old 14x2 mixer from old Reason versions, which sounds shitty as hell. So if you're summing everything for your drum bus or music bus through that mixer, it completely defeats the purpose of using this wonderful mixer, because one of its downfalls of the 14x2 is that its summing is terrible. So, my way around this, well, there are 8 sends, as you can see, in each channel strip. Those feed, there we go, the effects sends over here in the master section. So there's your send level outs, right? I guess this one's still labeled echo, need to fix that. And then normally you'd run through a device, bring it in on the return here. But I don't want to do that because I want to have access to a full channel strip's worth of stuff. So technique we learned in school even was to do that. Instead of return something to the effects returns, you return it to another channel, which gives you more flexibility. So that's what we see here with our drums, music, and sidechain channels. So let's leave the mixer for a second. Oops. There we go. Here's our rack. Now, what I've set up here is, here's our master section. It's got an HRED, that's that DCAM high quality analog modeling circuit on my master, as well as a very nice tube drive. And I've mirrored that on my drum channels and my music channels. That just fattens everything up. You really don't need to add these to individual instruments unless you're looking for more of an overdrive type sound. I found that it's almost too fat and you lose some definition. So this is a perfect amount, which is great. So if you added it to every channel, you'd be taxing the CPU harder, which would give you less headroom for more virtual instruments and whatnot. So anyways, what's going on in the background here, how I wired this. In our master section, there's our effects sends, right? So that would represent these guys right here, these sends. And they are coming out, of here. Effects send 1 and 2. Oops. I've sent them in stereo. Do everything in stereo. Just because that makes the most sense as far as a lot of reasons. But okay, so our effects send 1, as you can see, is feeding the HRED in drums, which then goes through, sorry, its resolution is brutal. Drums. Here's our drums. So it's feeding the HRED, going out of the HRED into the saturation, out of that into the from device, which is the insert on this audio track called drums that I created. I did the same thing out of effects send 2, for music feeds the insert of that after going through these two devices. And you'll notice that nothing's in the direct out of these. That's because I want it to actually feed the master automatically. That's part of the workaround I'll show you here shortly. The side chain, the output of this merger is feeding the sidechain input, the insert into the sidechain track. From, I can use multiple sources to create the sidechain I want. That's going to create the pumping effect for the music to allow drums to either pop through or, really get that house pump or whatever. So right now the only thing I have feeding it is actually the aux send out of my main Kong drum machine, which I've built in my template as well. That way this aux 1 can feed the sidechain, which happens to be, I'm on the kick right now, and I can feed it, see, from every single drum as much as I want. Right now I'm just feeding aux 1 from the kick out of aux 1 into the sidechain merger, out of that into the sidechain channel. So what you'll see is when I hit that drum from the Kong 1 and 2, it's also feeding the drum channel, because that's my bus. It's actually coming out of there. It's not coming out of here. This is feeding the drums. So that's why those levels are exactly the same. Plus, because of that aux, I'm feeding the sidechain over here, which is silent. Obviously, I don't want the sidechain feeding the master either. So the only thing actually feeding the master is this drum channel right now. Right? Okay, so let's go back to our instrument here. I'm going to go to our drum machine. Now the other thing I've done is I've wired up all the gate ins to the gate outs of this redrum so I can program it 16-step analog style. The nice thing about the Kong is, as you can see, it actually has synthesized drum modules to sound more like a vintage drum machine, but it's its own, but that's kind of cool as well. Of course, I could also load samples of any drum machine I want into these pads and do the same thing, or just load them in the actual redrum if I wanted to do that. But anyways, this is wired, so 1 is 1, which is kick. Oops. So I'll go up here, gonna do some 4 to the floor. There we go. Right. Now, go back, you'll see that the sidechain's being fed, the drums are being fed. So let's create a synthesizer, and here's where you'll see where the trick comes in with the busing. So I'm creating a new track. So I'll create a Thor, load up like a pad of some kind. That'll work. Okay, and I'm gonna expand this, expand, show, insert effects. First thing I want to do is create a spider audio merger and splitter. Tab back there, run the direct out into that. That will kill it from feeding the master automatically. As well, it's kind of a cool trick. You'll have up to 4 stereo outs to feed that anywhere else you might want to go for sidechain reasons or what have you. So now it's killed, and of course I can't hear the synth. So what I need to do is go back to the mixer. Here's my Thor. I want to go to my sends. I gotta collapse these, you can't see what's going on. There we go. And 2 feeds music. Music's fed by 2. So, going to turn on 2. And I'm going to send that out -26, which basically means unity or 0. And they're pre, so the fader still affects the level. So the mixer just acts like it normally would, only these guys are getting fed instead of the master. So you feed the drums and music, which then goes to the master. There we go. Okay, and what you'll see right here is I got the pumping going now. If I can press it. And yeah, you can control that to say however you want. Anyways, you get the idea. So there it is. Added this little bit to the video. There's something I realized I hadn't done yet. So one thing I did is in the effects send section I labeled those drums, music, sidechain. Move the sidechain over to the far right, as I realized in my sends it makes more sense. I want 1 and 2 to definitely be drums and music. So because that's 3, I made that 3 just to make sense. So labeled those, but the more important thing I did, I also wanted to show in my inserts here where I have the decam, this guy, which actually looks like that if you use all the crazy modulation in it, but I'm just using it for the high quality analog circuit modeling. But anyways, you got that, you got the saturation on master, drums, and music. And I actually programmed those, created a preset as well so I can load it fast if need be. Trying to find it. There we go. So inserts, you'll notice for drums and music and master, you got decam drive, which will turn up the drive on that circuit. You can turn it on and off. Tube, same thing, how much saturation on and off. So I got those for all of these guys, including the master here as well. So yeah, there's that. Pretty cool. So you can just do that right on the fly in the mixer and not have to mess with the rack. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than, of course, you see all the outputs here from the Kong, and they're all feeding into these separate channels into the from device. And of course I have direct outs going to that just to kill it from going to the master. You want that on every single track that you have, except for your buses, obviously, because you want those to feed the master. But that's the whole workaround, but it's pretty beautiful because now it works exactly how I would want my mixer to work. I've always wanted to take advantage of this SSL G series, modeled mixer to its fullest, make Reason sound as good as possible. With that, and with the use of this etch red and sat tube, it's a really good start. I just need to get that UHE reverb, plate verb, that's absolutely incredible, which kind of seals the deal as far as reverb for synthesizers. And then I'll be well on my way. It's a nice little setup to start programming and doing stuff analog style. But anyways, there you are.